Mosaic, won't you stand and worship with us this morning?
The kindness of heaven is here in your presence. You move with compassion, you reach out and pull me closer. Your river of mercy, a stream never ending. The strength of your love will carry me. Who can stand against my God as strong and open hands? He covers me in mercy. He covers me in mercy. Mercy covers me. Out of the ashes, eternity promised. Extravagant goodness and patience abundant. I've been forgiven, my faith is forgotten. The strength of your love will carry me. And we sing out, who can stand? Who can stand against my God as strong and open hands? He covers me in mercy. He covers me in mercy. His mercy covers me. My God is strong and open hands. He covers me in mercy. He covers me in mercy. Compassion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness, devoted, sufficient, your love bridged the distance. Compassion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness, devoted, sufficient, your love bridged. Come on, we sing this out. Compassion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness, devoted, sufficient, your love bridged the distance. Oh, what kindness in your presence, my salvation. Who can stand?
Who can stand against
My God.
my God has strong and open hands?
Covers me.
Mercy
Covers me.
covers me, mercy
Covers me.
covers me.
Yeah. Who can stand? Yeah. Oh. Covers me. Covers me in mercy. Mercy covers me.
Before I reach out my arms, you've opened up yours. Before I pour out my heart, you know every thought. Sing, I will be anxious for nothing, and I will be anxious for nothing. I hold on to one thing, my comfort, my peace. I will be safe in your presence, so fierce and so tender. My comfort. through the dark and flood it with light. You fill it with fire, and I will be anxious for nothing. Hold on to one thing, my comfort, my peace. I will be safe in your presence, so fierce, so tender. My comfort, my peace. You won't forsake me, you won't betray me, you'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid. You won't forsake, sing it out. You won't betray me, you'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid. You won't forsake me, you won't betray me, you'll never fail, and I won't be afraid. No.
You won't forsake.
You won't betray.
You won't betray.
You'll never fail.
Never fail me.
And I won't be afraid because you will.
You will protect me. You will defend me.
You're standing with me, and I won't be afraid.
You will protect me. You will defend me.
You're standing with me,
And I won't be afraid.
I will be anxious for nothing. I'm
Hold on to one thing.
you are
My comfort,
my peace.
my peace.
I will be safe in
Your presence, so fierce and so tender. My comfort
and my peace. I will be anxious for nothing. I hold on to one thing, my God. You're my
comfort,
and my peace. I will be safe in
your presence, so fierce and so tender.
my
Comfort, my peace.
Wow.
Man, I love that song so much. Can we give it up for the worship team one more time? These are my people. Come on.
That's amazing. I'm out of breath from that. That was so good.
Yeah, man. Well, my name is Erwin. I'm one of the pastors here. This is my lovely wife. Woo.
Hi, my name's Haven, and I have the privilege of volunteering here.
We just would love to give you guys an opportunity to meet each other and build community. So go ahead, say hey to the person next to you, and then find your seat. All right. So as you guys are finding your seat, we want to let you know about a few awesome things that are happening here at Mosaic. One of which, that first song they just played, is on a new record that MSC just released on Friday called Heaven.
Heaven is on earth.
That's it, man. You can get a physical copy, stream it, Spotify. I just think it's so beautiful to have music that just communicates the vision and the voice of Mosaic in such a beautiful way. And there might be some tracks on there that you haven't heard live at church. They're kind of a surprise. Woo! But there's one place where you can hear those songs, and Haven's going to tell you about it.
Yes, in November, we are having Mosaic Conference. Woo! It's amazing. We're pulling together some of the world's best artists, communicators, influencers, speakers, and they're all coming together at the theater at the Ace Hotel. We want you to get your tickets today because when you do, you get an exclusive Heaven t-shirt that you can walk away with. And it'll be the lowest that tickets ever are today. So make sure you get those. You can get them in the back at Next Step after the gathering.
As we continue to worship, I'm going to invite our campus pastor, one of my favorite people on the planet, Joe Smith, to lead us in this time. So give it up for Joe Smith.
Don't you guys love the Weeses? Come on now. They're just two good looking people like that should not be able to be together, right? It's like me and my wife is way better looking than me, you know, and so I married up. They like married right together, right? Oh, man, I love you guys. You're amazing and can't wait for that baby. Okay. So we're going to transition into a time to receive our offering. So we can invite our team to come forward. And as we prepare to give, I want to read a passage together. You guys excited to be in church today? You excited to give today? See, not the same level of excitement. We're going to get there. Okay. 2 Chronicles chapter 31. Listen to these words. I love it. Verse 5. It says, as soon as the order went out, the Israelites generously gave the first fruits of their grain, new wine, olive oil, and honey, and all the fields produced. They brought a great amount, a tithe of everything. The people of Israel and Judah who lived in the towns of Judah also brought a tithe of their herds and flocks, and a tithe of the holy things dedicated to the Lord their God, and they piled them in heaps. I love that. And then verse 7, they began doing this in the 3rd month and finished it in the 7th month. Everybody say 3rd month. Now say 7th month. See, I love this moment in the scriptures because it teaches us that there's something really powerful that happens, not just when we give once, but when we give reoccurring. Because when you give once, when you're inspired, and I hope we do that here at Mosaic. I hope there's moments where you feel inspired to give, to be a part of it. But here's what happens, like when you give once, you can create a moment. But when you give over time, you can create a movement. And it says that what they got to be a part of later, and you see that Israel begun to be a generous tribe, that they were teaching the rest of the world what it looked like to trust God with everything, that it says they brought all of their first fruits, their honey, their oil, their flocks, their herds, they brought it all. And it says they started in the 3rd month and they finished in the 7th month. See, a lot of times when it comes to giving, I think it's easy for us to start, but it's sometimes hard for us to finish. And it's that space of not just igniting something and not just stepping into it, but you allow a rhythm of when you do it once, it is cute, but when you do it over time, that's when it actually changes lives. And when we get to go to Malawi, when we just yesterday, we had a Mosaic Kids Fest, where there were over 200 people that came and were a part of it, and families just connecting to each other. And I love watching families go. And there was a mom crying and going, I just, this is the first time I've talked to another parent in like months. And she's like, I'm just tired of talking to 3-year-olds, right? And if you're a parent, you get this. See, we do this huge fest with a carnival and a petting zoo with the cutest little pig I've ever seen in my entire life, right? And an ice cream truck and taco, all that. But it didn't just happen by magic. It happened because you gave. It happens because you said, man, I want to create a space for people to know that there's a place here in LA called Mosaic that you can come to Jesus, you can discover who he is, you can be on this journey of faith, but at the same time crash into each other. And that's what happens when we give. And I just want to encourage you. Like maybe you've given one time. Maybe you're like that. You started in the 3rd month, but then the 4th month came and you're like, I got to pay rent. But maybe what can happen is God can begin to break free some things in your life if you begin the practice of being a reoccurring giver. You have the practice of not just seeing God show up in your faith, but seeing God show up in your faithfulness. And then it's a different thing that we get to be part of. So if Mosaic is your home, if it's your tribe, and maybe that's the conversation God's been having, I just want to encourage you. Like if you'll just trust God with everything, with all your finances, if you'll trust God with what he's already given you, there's no limit to what we can do as a church together. There's no corner of the earth that we cannot unleash God's love on when we give generously and sacrificially. So you can go ahead and pass the buckets. And if you're on live stream, you can join us as well. And there's a few different ways to give. You can text Mosaic to 77977. You can go online as well. Oh, I love that one, the new one. Check to Mosaic, right? Write a check, because if you write a check, God's blessed you. If you know what a checkbook is. So I want to encourage you, if that's you, drop it in the bucket now, or you can also bring it to us in the back. We have buckets there. Hey, we are so excited for just this season and all that God's doing in our church. And actually put a lot of money in that bucket. That's why I dropped, right? And then we just want to help you get plugged in, get more involved. with some exciting things coming up. So check out Church News.
What's up, Mosaic? My name's Dom.
And I'm Caroline. Welcome to Church News. Here at Mosaic, the easiest way to stay up to date with everything that's going on is to follow us on Instagram. You can also go to the Next Step area after the gathering to meet your new best friends and find out how to join a team.
If you like what we do here on Sundays, round 2 happens on Wednesdays. It's called Midweek here at Hollywood. 8 p.m., bring a friend, bring a barista, bring that girl you've been checking out, and come on, we can't wait to see you. I got a seat for you.
Mosaic MSC just dropped their latest album!
Heaven!
Get it at Next Step after the gathering. It's amazing!
Maker of the heaven, there is none.
But better.
Yeah, not like that, but better than that.
Hey Mosaic, I'm so excited to announce that starting September 29th, Pastor Erwin is launching a brand new series called Chasing Daylight. See, I would not be in Los Angeles if it was not for that book. I read it, it changed my life, and I said I have to be at Mosaic. So here's what we're gonna ask of you. Join us, invite all your friends. It's gonna be a 6-week series, and around the series, we're gonna launch book clubs, we're gonna have crews, and so if you wanna host a book club, go to mosaic.org/chasingdaylight. You can see all the info on that. And if you're in LA, I want to encourage you to join a crew. It's a great space to meet people, get connected, be a part of what we're doing. It is going to be phenomenal. And there is a limited edition. So make sure you buy your copy at Next Step. Go get it now. Go get it today. Don't wait. I cannot wait for this series.
Our lead pastors, Erwin and McManus, have created a weekend where we can lean into the future of the church, the future of worship, and the future of humanity. This weekend is called Mosaic Conference, and it's coming up so soon. If you're still not convinced, check out this video.
T-minus 90 seconds and counting.
Don't get involved in fights you don't belong in, but you better fight the ones that are yours. And sometimes in the middle, you have to choose what that fight is.
Start where you are, and then one day you may look back and realize that very small step you took, that one step in the right direction, was actually one of the biggest steps of faith of your entire life, because you had no idea what our good God would do on the other side of it.
That burn in your belly and that desire in your heart is purpose. And from the time that you were knitted in your mama's womb, downloaded in your DNA is the capacity to run your race. You have the capacity to be all that you were called, created to be.
Our God is a God of the future. And everything that God has done for us, it's all about our future. Hope is for the future. Faith is for the future. Forgiveness is for the future. Love is for the future.
Some of you just keep looking at the wind and looking at the clouds, and what Solomon is saying, stop looking for excuses and waiting for the perfect time, and get in the game and act and be bold, because the future belongs to the bold.
We love you, Mosaic.
Let's stand and worship together.
I'm running to your promise, holding fast to everything you said to me. You can take me through the fire, you can ignite the flame inside of me. I'm on the road less traveled, I'm on my way to your heart, Lord. What no eye has seen, you will show me, oh show me your heart, Lord. Oh show me your heart, Lord. Open up my eyes to see in my mind, to know you, my soul, and longs only for you. Let me hear can sing this out together. My desire is to love you. My desire is to love you. You're the light that will guide me through the night. You are with me in the battle, bringing peace to the war inside my heart. I know your love's no limits in every space. Your love invades. You're calling me out, and I'm ready. So open up my eyes to see you, my mind, to know you, my soul. It longs only for you. Let me hear your voice, resounding your words, creating a brand new heart in me. To live in grace, so wonderful. All I want is to be where you are. To know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart. To live in grace, so wonderful. All I want is to be where you are. To know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart. To live in grace, to live in grace, so wonderful. All I want is to be where you are. To know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart and open up my eyes to see you, my mind, to know you, my soul. It longs only for you. Oh, let me hear your voice, resounding your words, creating a brand new heart in me, yeah. Open up my eyes to see you, my mind, to know you, my soul. It longs only for you. Oh, let me hear your voice, resounding your words, creating a brand new heart in me.
How you guys doing today? Good, good. And good morning. It is so good to be back home. But yeah, it's great. Thank you, one person. And why don't you just take a seat? Sorry, that threw me off. Go ahead. Been gone for the last few weeks. Went to Asia. We went over to Kuala Lumpur, then Taipei, then Singapore. It's been an incredible time. This morning, I was getting dressed, and Kim's like, "Why are you wearing like such baggy clothes?" And I had a lot of like pork buns, and a lot of dumplings, a lot of noodles, and so I'll be wearing baggy clothes for a while. And couldn't say no. I didn't know maple syrup was a food group, but it's really, really good. And I knew that once I was here, I couldn't access all that, so we just had to go for the whole thing. But it's so great. I have no regret for that. But it is great to be home, and I wanted to just kind of highlight a couple of things. Because when we make kind of announcements that you know what's going on in church news, I don't want you to think that it's just filler. these are things we actually plan for your development and growth. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple things. One, I hope you noticed on the Mosaic Conference that we added a speaker, Pastor Kevin Liu. He's the, yeah, you don't know yet, but he's going to be amazing. He's the pastor in Kuala Lumpur of a place called The Collective. And it's amazing. Right in the middle of the calls to prayer, in the middle of an Islamic country, you have this vibrant, growing Christian community of young people, entrepreneurs, pioneers, artists, creatives, doing some of the most inventive things you'll ever see. And so we asked Pastor Kevin, he's been coming every year to our conference, just very quietly and with his team and flying all the way here every year. And so this year he's going to be one of our speakers, and it's going to be beautiful. And I just wanted to let you know a couple things. One, we try not to bring in like the speakers that all these other conferences bring in. We want to bring people who are unique voices for our community. And there's really two sides to this. I want to create an event that pours into you and develops you. But we have like 40 people coming from Brazil and probably 40, 50 coming from Latin America, another 20, 30, 40 coming from Asia. And they're coming to experience Mosaic, and they can't experience Mosaic without you. And it's easy to put together a crowd. It's a little harder to build a church, but it's really difficult to create a culture. And a part of the reason we do the conference is to create the culture of Mosaic that spreads across the world, and it's really, really critical. And if you're here and you want to be at the center of what's happening here, take the 2 days off, November 8 through 10, be a part of the conference, be there from beginning to end, and watch what God will do in your life, and get to know some people, even in this community, outside of the context of church on Sunday. And it's going to be a brilliant time, so I want to encourage you to sign up for the conference. Second thing is the book clubs. And it's kind of interesting because last night in Orange County, I heard some people around the book and clubs, and they're like in their 20s. They're like, you know, should I buy a book? And they say, why don't we just buy one book and do a whole book club? I think they know the idea of a book club where everyone reads the book. And I could hear, like, you know, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to spend $20. And I thought, if you spend more money on your feet than you do on your brain, you're in trouble, okay? And when you're buying a book, you're not investing in the writer, you're investing in yourself. And a part of the reason we're doing this is so many of the questions I've gotten from people about their lives, because everybody wants a moment of counseling. And you cannot imagine what that's like. If you just give everybody one moment, that's 5,000 moments here. And if you had an opportunity to be mentored by someone and have them speak into your life, wouldn't you take that? That's what happens when you read a book. You're being mentored by the person who wrote it. And a part of what I've done is I've done the hard work of putting the things I've learned that help us live the life we're created to live into that book. And Chasing Daylight has so many of the answers to the questions I'm being asked. So I went back and said, hey, we need to come back and do this book as a book club. And I just want to encourage you, get in the book club, buy the book, don't just buy it, read the book. And get them for your friends, invest in yourself and in others. Get into a crew or book club and do life together. We're going to do this together as a community, but this will have the greatest impact if we actually dive in and learn what is being taught in these pages. So I just want to encourage you to do this with us, not take it for granted. And then the last thing is we have this album, Heaven, that just came out, which is so good. They shot 3 music videos around the album, and they're not released yet. In fact, there's one called 15 that's gonna be released next week. I wanted to show it today. And I was told by Mariah, you cannot show it. And then I said, really want to show it. She goes, okay, here's how we can do it. So we're not gonna let anyone watching the live stream, if you're on the live stream right now, you're gonna get to see something else because you're not here, okay? These are the privileges of presence. And so you're going to get to see something else, and then this will drop next week exclusively. But we want to give you like the world premiere because this song was written out of Luke 15. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. This is Luke 15 reinterpreted, and it's the story of the prodigal son. And if you listen to the lyrics, it'll just grab you because it's a reminder that no matter how far you run away, God is chasing after you. And the moment you turn around and come back, he's going to run and hold you close. And that's the beautiful thing about who Jesus is. And this is visually stunning. It's just, I think it's like cutting edge and just so artistically forward. And I wanted us at Mosaic to experience this together. So it's my privilege to present to you the premiere of 15.
Against all hope, I will believe. Through raging wars, you fight for peace. You have always made a way, a path of beauty you create. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it pays away.
So good. Want to welcome the live stream back? You don't know what you missed. One of the great privileges I have in my life is I get to travel the world quite a bit and step into different cultures and different contexts. And over the years, we've gone to places and we watched communities change, churches change, cultures change. And one of the things that's been interesting to me is to go back to places, or to go to places even for the first time like Taipei, or to go to Kuala Lumpur or to Singapore and see churches that have said, we were impacted by Mosaic 20 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and we began to shift who we are, change the way we approach everything. And so many of these places around the world I've gone to, they think they're a reflection of us, but they're doing some things actually way better than us. I just love the fact that they think like Mosaic, and I come back going, we need to become like them. And I feel like I'm cheating because they bring me in to teach them, and I leave having learned more than I taught. But one of the things that really struck me is that each place finds something that they elevate to an unexpected level. And sometimes they go to a level of extraordinary, of greatness that we didn't even perceive as attainable. And I've started wondering what it is about those individuals or those communities that achieve a level of greatness. And one of the themes here at Mosaic that is undeniable is, and I'm going to hold this till I die, is that we have a conviction that there's greatness inside of every human being. And if no one's ever told you this, there's greatness inside of you. And sometimes it may seem almost too grand a language, but it's a view of humanity because you're created by God. And God is great. And God doesn't do anything less than the essence of who he is. And so it doesn't make any sense that God would put average in you. God puts greatness in you because God is great. And he created you in his image and likeness. And I know that when we go to church, we're supposed to hear about how God is great. And we're not supposed to hear about how humans are great. But I want you to know that God is not worried about your greatness. In fact, God wants you to achieve your greatness. Because your greatness is not in competition with God's greatness, because you're great, but not that great. And in fact, when you achieve or step into your greatness, you reflect God best. Because you're reflecting the beauty and wonder of who he is. But here's the dilemma. We have this absolute conviction that there's greatness inside of everyone. But we have to deal with the reality that very few people ever actualize that greatness. That very few of us ever step into our greatness. And so we have to deal with this tension. Why is it that if there's greatness inside of all of us, so many of us feel as if we're living painfully, tragically ordinary lives? And I think sometimes it's because our language betrays us. Even our spirituality betrays us. We use language like grace and faith. And really, they're just code words that allow us to live passive lives. You know, because if God's going to do it, he's going to do it. If it's going to happen, God's going to make it happen. And so you're able to abdicate your personal responsibility for your life. But you ever notice the person who says, you know, I'm just going to let God do it, that God never does anything? But that person who steps into their own intention, it's amazing how God just keeps showing up. And so I wanted to take a few moments and focus on what it takes to be great. And sometimes when you study the scriptures, you can pull out a particular passage or a moment in time and learn from that moment, because we're better at learning from the trees than we are from the forest. But sometimes you have to step back and look at the overarching stories in the scriptures, the life lessons in the scriptures, and realize that there's a forest there as well, that there are principles in the lives of people like Daniel and David and Esther and Ruth and Joshua and Joseph. And we need to step back and realize that God takes ordinary human beings and does extraordinary things through their lives, that he pulls out a greatness in them that would have been lost without him. And wouldn't it be a tragedy if at the end of your life you could actually see what God had placed in you? If you have a moment where you glimpse the potential, the possibilities that were waiting for you if you stepped into them. And so I want us to take just a few moments and talk about what it takes to be great. And I started thinking about different genres and different fields. And so, of course, I went back to basketball. Because maybe I don't want to fully admit this, because I love Steph Curry and I love Kevin Durant. I love everyone who plays for the Warriors. But if I were going to look at professional basketball in the NBA and step back and go, who's the greatest, most dominant player alive today? I'd have to admit it's LeBron James. And I know now he's a Laker and the Lakers are going to be great, and I've heard it all. But really, will the Lakers be great, or will it be simply LeBron who's great, wearing a Laker jersey? And because was Cleveland great, or was LeBron great and he played for Cleveland? Was Miami great, or was LeBron great and he played for Miami? See, that's the dilemma, because when a person carries a level of greatness, you're not really sure. But you do know two things, maybe three. They were not great before he got there. They were great while he was there. and they were no longer great when he left. So those are some things you can tell. You can identify greatness because somehow everyone becomes great while they're there. So I started thinking, okay, LeBron is the most dominant, greatest player in the NBA. And last year in Game 7 against the Celtics, when they should have lost, but he willed them to his 8th final in a row, he played all 48 minutes. Now, that may not seem like much, but it's really a physical phenomenon to be able to play 48 minutes of NBA basketball. And in some ways, LeBron is just a freak of nature. But normally he averages about 37.9 minutes a game, 38 minutes a game. He plays, he's on the court. Now, this is odd. Out of 48 minutes, 10 minutes of that time, he's on the bench. But he's still the most dominant player in the world. For 10 minutes, he's just sitting on the bench, but he's still the greatest player in the world. And he's on the court for 37.9 minutes, 38 minutes a game. And in those 38 minutes, he's considered the most dominant, greatest player in the world. But do you know how much time LeBron actually has the ball in his hands? He only has the ball in his hands 6.1 minutes. So that means 6.1 minutes out of 48 minutes, he has the ball in his hands and he's the most dominant player in the world. How in the world can you dominate a game when you don't have the ball in your hands? That's the mystery of greatness. It's in those 6 minutes. And by the way, the year before, when they actually won the championship, the 2 years where he did not win the championship, he averaged 6.1 minutes a game. But the 1 year they won the championship, he averaged 5.1 minutes a game. So he actually had the ball less time in his hands when he achieved a higher level of greatness. How do you explain that? What's going on? See, what happens is that when we identify greatness, we identify those moments of greatness, but we don't actually see the context of greatness. So we see LeBron in those 6 minutes he has the ball, but what actually makes LeBron great is not what he does in those 6 minutes, it's what's happening in these other 42 minutes when the ball is not in his hands and everyone else is elevating to a level of greatness that was not possible without him. Have you ever had a moment of greatness? You know, a moment where you knew you were great? I mean, you couldn't say it out loud, but you thought to yourself, wow, that was awesome. I mean, some of you do say it out loud, and that's part of the problem, but you ever felt that moment where you were awesome? I used to tell people, look, identify your 5 minutes of greatness. Everyone's had 5 minutes of greatness in some area. Have you ever had 5 minutes of greatness? Like, it could be in almost any area. Have you ever had, like, a moment where you were really wise? Like someone asked you for advice, and you actually had some? And you gave them advice, and it worked? You were, like, so wise. You were like a sage. You were like Yoda. And you ever thought, wow, that was deep. I was so deep. But you can't sustain it. You go back to the regular you. You ever had that moment you were like awesome at work? You were a great employee. If only someone was watching. I mean, you had those 5 minutes where you were awesome. You ever had those 5 minutes? 5 minutes as an athlete, or 5 minutes as an executive, or 5 minutes as a parent. You ever had 5 minutes of greatness as a parent? Where your kid said, you're the best dad in the world. You're the best mom in the world. You know those 5 minutes don't last. See, I think all of us, in fact, I would tell, like, find your 5 minutes of greatness and just expand that to 6. But the problem is that we identify 5 minutes of greatness, and usually we think that greatness is fame. And so those 5 minutes we feel famous, we think those are the 5 minutes we are great, but they're not. See, what you really need to identify are not the 5 minutes you were great, but what took you to get to those 5 minutes. What was in the backdrop? What was happening when the ball was not in your hands that prepared you for those few moments where the ball was in your hands? Have you ever had an opportunity that was right in front of you, but you knew you were not prepared for it? You weren't quite ready for it. A dream you've had all your life. Have you just wanted something so bad, and the moment it came, you just were not ready to step into it? See, there's some moments of greatness waiting for you right now that you're not ready for because there was a decision you should have made 5 years ago or 10 years ago that have prepared you for this moment. And what I want you to do right now is I want you to make this moment not your present, but your past. Because 10 years from now, I want you to look back on this moment And know that day I decided to do what it takes to be great. It prepared me for this moment now. So Joseph is at the end of his life. And maybe you don't know much about Joseph. He was one of many brothers, and he had these dreams that came from God. And he shared his dreams with his brothers and his father, and it didn't go well. Because in his dreams, it had his brothers and fathers bowing down in front of him, and he shared those dreams with his family, and it sent him on a life of pain. And the very brothers who resented him and hated him and despised him, in fact, they tried to kill him, and they sold him into slavery. They were the very ones he later saved because God positioned him with the power to save an entire people, his people. At the end of his life, and Genesis is a curious book because the first half of Genesis is the story of all of humanity, and the second half of Genesis is the story of Joseph. How do you do that? I'm going to tell the story of all of us and then just him. And the book of Genesis ends when Joseph's life ends. Wouldn't that be beautiful? To live a life of such greatness that an entire book closes when you breathe your last breath. At the end of Joseph's life, and in Genesis 50, verse 24, it says, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. And the symbolism of him being placed in a coffin in Egypt is that Joseph, who was a Hebrew, was buried with the highest level of honor and dignity in the Egyptian empire. Joseph, who began as a slave to Egypt, ends his life as the most powerful and influential individual in the nation, in the empire Egypt, minus Pharaoh himself. How does a life like that happen? How do you step into your greatness? What does it take to be great? Well, it begins with a sense of personal destiny. I can't explain this, and sometimes it feels irrational and almost a bit insane, but every person who achieves something great believes they're going to achieve something great. Sometimes they don't even know what it is, they just know it's going to be something. But you have this sense of destiny, that you're created to do something significant, something that matters, and it drives you, eats you. Sometimes it haunts you because you know it's there, and you're terrified you may never step into it, but you have this sense of personal destiny. Now, when you enter into the journey of faith, the word destiny is changed to calling. See, once I became a follower of Christ, they would talk about my calling. I'd never heard that language in my life. I heard the language of destiny, but not calling. But you see, in the scriptures, it says that God calls you out. And he calls you out to a very specific intention. That God calls you, in a sense, into a destiny. Not something you're destined for, but something you're destined to create. See, your destiny doesn't already exist waiting for you. Your destiny is waiting for you to create it. And one of the challenges in what I found in the faith environment is that the language of calling is oftentimes only used for pastors. And so you're called to the ministry. You ever heard that phrase? You're called to the ministry. But I thought this is a strange thing, because if the only people who are called are the ones who are called to be pastors, it means everyone else is uncalled. You never get a call. You're sitting by the phone all your life, but the phone never rings because God never gives you a call. And that's a total misconception of reality. And in fact, when I became a follower of Jesus, it was so confusing because they said, God's calling you to follow him. So I responded to that calling and I gave my life to Jesus. And they said, no, now God's calling you to be baptized. So I was baptized. I responded to that calling. And then a year later, I came back home and they said, now God is calling people into ministry. So I went forward for that calling too. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know what ministry meant, but I followed that calling. Then the next year, they had a giant globe in the building, and I said, what's going on? I said, they're calling people to be missionaries. So I responded to that calling. I kept going forward every single time. There was a call. I answered. I didn't know if the phone was ringing in my direction. It was like a payphone on the street, but I was going to pick it up because if God was calling, I was going to answer the call. But I finally asked, how many calls does God have? And as I began reading the scriptures, I realized there's actually just one calling. One calling. Jesus says, come follow me. That's it. And if you respond to the calling of Jesus to follow him, you will step into your intention. You will step into your destiny. You will step into your calling. Because to be great, you have to believe you've been called to do something great. You have to believe you were created to do something great. You have to have this sense of personal destiny. Because just like Joseph, he had this dream. Can you imagine? Anybody here have brothers and sisters? Can you imagine what it'd like to go to your brothers and sisters and go, I had a dream. I think it was from God. And in this dream, you're all bowing down to me. How would that go in your family? Oh, by the way, mom and dad, you're bowing down too. That's okay, because I'm awesome. See, it wouldn't go well for me. It wouldn't go well for you. It did not go well for Joseph. They didn't go, oh, we always thought you were awesome. They go, who do you think you are? And they despised Joseph. They hated him. And they wanted to kill him. And because they wanted to kill him so badly, but they kind of felt a little guilty, they threw him into a well and then they sold him into slavery. You see, when you have a sense of personal destiny, first of all, if God does give you a dream, don't share it with everybody. You don't need to tell your dreams to everyone. In fact, if you're always talking up your dreams, they're probably not from God. You're just trying to talk up a big game. See, if God actually speaks into your life, hide it in your heart and let other people begin to identify that dream, that destiny in your life. Because then you know it's actually coming to pass. But what happens when you have a sense of personal destiny is that you begin to have a sense of belief that gives you the strength to overcome failure in your life. See, Joseph received these dreams when he was 17 years old. But then at the age of 17, he was sold into slavery, and he remained a slave till he was 30 years old. For the next 13 years of his life, there was no tangible evidence that this dream would ever become a reality. It would have been so easy for Joseph to give up on that dream, to move toward despair, to stop believing in God, to give up his faith. But when you have this deep sense that God has given you a dream, it gives you the strength and determination to see all the hardships in life through. Kim is one of those people with a deep sense of belief. And it's that deep belief in her that allowed her to find the strength to overcome being an orphan, to overcome living in being a foster child, to overcome all the hardships of poverty, to step beyond that, to walk her way to church, to walk her way to school, to make her the first person in her family to break through high school and to college to get her master's degree, because that deep sense of calling and destiny her drove her forward. I admire that sense of belief. I feel like I have faith, but I have a hard time with belief. Some of you understand what I mean. When I'm right, I still feel wrong. Like, I don't know if I'm right. I think I'm Erwin. I mean, I am so unsure of almost everything. But Kim has like a deep sense of belief. Even when she's wrong, she knows she's right. And we have this talk all the time. And I said, honey, what does it feel like to know you're right when you're wrong? And she was, it feels right. I feel like that's wrong. But that level of conviction that drives her, moves her forward, is what begins to form in you when you have a sense of destiny. It doesn't matter if the information validates it, you just keep moving forward. I can tell you this, I dreamed of this place and of you when I was 24 years old. I did not live in Los Angeles. I didn't know how I was gonna get here. I wasn't even married yet. But that dream was placed inside of me. I dreamed of a day where we would be in the middle of Hollywood and that the message of Jesus would be at the center of the story of LA. I dreamed this up before we ever came here. I can tell you I had a sense of destiny, and nothing in my life validated it. When you have a sense of personal destiny, it changes your perspective because you see every challenge and obstacle as just a part of the story of getting you where you're going. But what it takes to be great is not just a sense of personal destiny. There has to be this self-motivated drive. See, people who achieve their greatness do not need other people to keep inspiring them and encouraging them and driving them forward. It's not that we don't need encouragement. We all need encouragement. It's not that we don't need inspiration. We all need inspiration. But your motivators have to be internal, not external. What I find so oftentimes is that people are so quick to blame other people for their failures. And they're so quick to blame other people for their lack of destiny. It's someone else's fault that you didn't achieve your greatness. It's someone else's fault that you never had the opportunity. It's someone else's fault that they didn't see the talent and greatness inside of you. But I want you to realize that what it takes to be great is an internal drive. That other people can inspire you and encourage you and they can affirm you, but it's not what they say to you that matters. It's what this inner voice inside of you is saying to you. So you have to get up in the morning, and it's got to be you who decides to get up. You have to decide to be better. You have to decide to work harder. You have to decide to overcome your struggles. You have to decide to grow up. You have to decide to become courageous. If you spend your life blaming other people for you never stepping into your greatness, you don't understand where greatness comes from. That's why I think it's always interesting, and when they talk to great athletes, and they say, well, were you motivated by what they said about you? Were you motivated by what happened? They go, I don't need those to motivate me. I don't need someone else to motivate me. I don't need someone to say something to motivate me. I don't need a situation to motivate me. I'm already motivated to be great. There's some of you here, you keep waiting for God to motivate you. But the reality is that God can create opportunity, but you have to bring the determination. This is one of the things I learned the hard way when I worked with the urban poor for so many years. I actually believed that all everyone needed was an opportunity, and I painfully began to discover that our opportunity is wasted on people without determination. And I think one of the great tragedies is I meet so many people who are educated, so many people who come from families of wealth, so many people who have endless opportunities, but they have no drive and no determination. And here's the strange thing about it. You can have all these things. You can have wealth, and you can have power and position and fame. But if you don't have an internal drive to give your life to something bigger than yourself, you will feel overwhelmed with a sense of despair and depression. You will drown in meaninglessness if you don't have a reason to get up and live your life. And I realized over a lifetime that in the same way that you cannot give a person determination, you can't give a person passion. And if you can find a person with passion and you give them opportunity, they'll fly through it and do more than you could ever imagine. And some of you here, you think that God has never given you the opportunity to do something great. There's some of you, you're angry with God because you feel like God never showed up and gave you the open door, the open window. What is that saying? If God closes the door, he opens the window. Why do you need something open? If you are passionate enough, if you have enough determination, if it burns inside of you, you don't care if the door is open. You don't care if there's a window. You're just going to crash through the wall. You're going to get to the other side. If you don't have drive, God is wasting opportunities on you. In fact, I think that all of us have had opportunities for greatness that we were not ready for. Because there has to be more than a sense of personal destiny, more than self-motivated drive. There has to be a commitment to self-discipline. And I know that's not sexy and that's not romantic. And we want to act as if we don't need discipline. All we need is faith. Right? I just need to believe. God is not Tinker. He doesn't need you to believe more Tinkerbell. I just wanted to wave her wand over you. God is looking for men and women who are willing to sacrifice and pay a price for greatness. And here's the beautiful thing. See, you don't have to discipline yourself to be loved by God. You have his love unconditionally. So you don't have to work harder or be better to be loved. God loves you just the way you are. But don't allow that grace and that love to be your justification to be less. And one of the things that just struck me so much is that I find so oftentimes that people who believe in Jesus oftentimes don't believe in hard work. So Joseph's a slave, and he gets found by this man called Potiphar, who's a wealthy Egyptian, and he becomes Potiphar's servant, and it's a pretty good situation for a slave. And then one day, Potiphar's gone, and Potiphar's wife sees Joseph, and he's evidently really good looking. And didn't have a propensity for dumplings and meat pies, and she was a floozy. And she said, yo, Joseph, you're looking fine today. So she put some Barry White on, baby. And then she said, hey, why don't we just do our thing? And it had been so easy for Joseph to say, God took everything from me, so why don't I just take something from him? It had been so easy for Joseph to say, I'm going to spend my life as a slave. Why don't I just enjoy this moment of pleasure? What I find is that there's a subtle nuance in our culture. We act as if things are love when they're just pleasure. And the reality is that you will sacrifice your greatness on the altar of self-gratification if you're not careful. It would have been so easy for Joseph to step into that moment, but Joseph says no. And you think God would honor that, right? Joseph, I'm so proud of you to say no to this woman. But he says no, and she becomes angry and embittered. And then she tells her husband that Joseph tried to rape her. It got worse. You ever did the right thing and it goes the wrong way? You know what drives me crazy sometimes? Is that you'll make the right choices and God doesn't seem to back it up with a better life. I can imagine just going, God, what are you doing? Every time I do the right thing, you do the wrong thing. By the way, just be careful of embittered people. Because embittered people want to make sure they destroy your happiness. When people are bitter, they can't stand someone else's happiness to exist. She was embittered against Joseph, and she should have commended him, but instead tried to destroy him. And Joseph yet says no. He does not choose self-gratification. He does not choose a moment's pleasure. He does not lose his future for his present. What choices are you making right now that are costing you your future? And then you're going to blame God one day. God, you never gave me the future I dreamed of. God, you never gave me the future that you put inside of me. God, you never made those dreams a reality in my life. And God will show you how you've made those small choices in your life that destroyed the context for you to have the future he always wanted for you. Your discipline is your structure. I think a lot of times people think success happens easily. And that's one of the reasons I love taking people with me when I travel. I took Albert Aquino and Kevin Pena and came with me, and Aaron, and we're traveling to all these countries, and we would land in a country and I would speak. And we'd land in another country and I would speak. We'd land in a country and I would speak. And then after we'd work, we'd meet with people, we'd get up and we'd go. And it would be so easy to say, I'm tired. And in fact, one of the things I thought was odd is when we were in Taipei, I'd finished speaking late one night, and they had cars ready to take us because sometimes they treat pastors as if they're gods or kings. And I said, what are you doing? They said, we're bringing cars to take you back to the hotel. I said, no, we're going to walk to the hotel. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy because it's hot and humid. They go, no, it's really hot out there. I know it's hot. I've been out there. And I said, well, it's late. I know it's late. It's a beautiful time to walk. And he said, but it's like 30 minutes away. I said, well, that's a short walk. And they told me later, you were the first pastor who ever came to our country who walked. So this is tragic. And that happened also in Kuala Lumpur and everywhere we went, and we'd go out and the pastors would ask me, do you ever sleep? I said, you can sleep when you die. But there's so much to do. There's so much to see. There's so much to experience. There's so many people to impact. And one day, I was in the exercise room trying to make up for all the dumplings, and it was like 6:30 in the morning, and we'd gone to bed maybe 2 or 3 that night, and about a half an hour or so later, Albert Aquino comes in, and we're exercising, and he comes over, and he says to me, are you always this intense? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, are you always this intense? And we're just working out. And he goes, no, do you always work out this intense? Al, this isn't intense, this is just normal. But here's the problem. I find that most people think lazy is normal. And I don't know if they understand that greatness doesn't happen without discipline. That you will never achieve what you long to achieve if you don't make the hard decisions of sacrificing some short-term pleasures and conveniences and comfort. There's something in your life you have to care about more than easy. Joseph's life, thank you. And I want you to know, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad for you. Because I don't want you to lose what God has placed inside of you. I don't want you to spend your whole life angry at God because he never showed up for you. I don't want you to think that you were less. But I want you to know the greatness inside of you. It can only come if you just discipline your life and make some sacrifices and say no to some things so that you can say yes to the things that actually matter in your life. Joseph had a no that protected his yes. Do you have a no in your life to protect your yes? What are you giving up today that's the material to create the future you long for? Because if you're not giving up anything, you're not getting anything. But I also noticed that there's a dynamic with greatness. Because one of the things that people don't talk about when it talks about what it takes to be great is that there has to be a meticulous attention to detail. I think this is really important because I find in a city of dreamers, detail is kind of looked down on. And I went through a bit of a culture crash when I flew in from Singapore. Maybe I'm still going through it. Because Singapore is like meticulous. It's like perfect. There's no trash anywhere. There are no trash cans. Explain that. There are no trash cans anywhere. I had trash one day. I couldn't find any place to put my trash. I just finally put it in my pocket. I just carried my trash with me all day. I think Singaporeans just absorb the trash. I don't know what happens. It's just not there. The streets are perfect. The trees are perfect. In fact, the trees are all numbered. And when the president drives, if a tree isn't meticulous, he sends the number of that tree and they come immediately to repair the tree. And maybe it appeals to my OCD, but I love the meticulous attention to detail. And then every church, I went into Malaysia thinking, oh, this poor country, the church is we're just gonna help them so much. Then I go, you guys like own your building? You built this? Those are your screens? That's your technology? Everything they did was world class. While the Islamic prayer sirens and chants are going on. We go to Taipei. Oh, we just bought the top of the largest mall in the nation. We just took the whole top of the mall. We couldn't afford it, so we prayed that they would run out of money, and they did. So they called us and said, will you buy the mall? So we said, yes. And they bought a mall. And then I go to Singapore, and they have a place called the Imaginarium, and it's breathtaking. And every place I went, such a meticulous attention to detail because they actually think the details matter. Because if they're going to reflect Jesus, it should be those beautiful, elegant, extraordinary expressions of art and humanity in the world. Then I flew into LA. Now, I love LA. Now, you know I have a love affair with LA. I've been in love with LA almost as long as I've been in love with Kim. I love LA. But LA, we're looking kind of nappy. We're needing a hair day or something because this is a city that clearly is created by dreamers who didn't care about the details. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times our church reflects that. And I come back and I go, no, we need a meticulous attention to beauty, to elegance, to excellence, in everything we do. I came back with fresh eyes, and all of a sudden I saw what was really there. Have you ever been around ugly so long you forgot it was ugly? Have you? Come on. You ever been around nasty so long you don't even know you do nasty all the time? You ever it's just uncapped? You ever been around, you ever gone to someone's apartment? And you're like, dude, how can you live like this? They're like what, man? It's just my apartment. Man, I hope your soul doesn't look like this. But here's the problem. It looks exactly like that. Looks exactly like that. When I used to interview people for jobs, I don't do that anymore. I always get two answers when I ask them, so what's your contribution? What are your skills? What are your gifts? They always say, I'm a people person. As opposed to what? You know, I'm an insect person. That's why I want to work here. I'm a people person. It's just like, that's one of those general answers. Like, what do you do with people? Eat them? Like, what you know, it's... I'm vegan, you know? And other answer is, I'm a visionary. I cannot tell you how many 20-year-olds would tell me, I'm a big picture person. I go, what does that mean? I'm a big picture person. That means I'm not a detailed person. I'm a big picture person, so I need like a staff to implement my vision. I go, yeah, that job's not available. That's my job. And I'm not interviewing for my job. And here's what I know. See, a lot of people who say they're visionaries, they're actually not visionaries, they're daydreamers. Because you see, Michelangelo was a visionary and he cared about the details. And Da Vinci was a visionary and he cared about the details. And Picasso was a visionary and he cared about the details. And Frank Lloyd Wright was a visionary and he cared about the details. And there has never been, oh, by the way, Kobe Bryant was a visionary and he cares about the details. You see, you cannot be a visionary and not care about the details. Because the moment you actually have a real vision, the details become really important to you. When I was dating Kim, it was a roller coaster of love. And I married her. She didn't really know me, and I didn't know her. We don't say this, but you marry a total stranger. Yeah, I mean, you know a few things about each other, but after you get married, you realize you know so little about each other. And for the first year of maybe 5 years of our marriage, I kept bringing her gifts she did not want. And I never stopped to ask her what she wanted. I just decided what she wanted. And so I would bring her T-shirts from everywhere I went, because every wife lives for T-shirts. And I can tell you, years later, we just gave away boxes and boxes and boxes of T-shirts that were never worn, not one time. All these gaudy, horrible T-shirts. And she never asked me for a T-shirt, but I kept bringing them to her. And then I shifted, because if you take generosity and OCD, that was me. And so I would travel the world, and then I got focused on clowns. And I kept bringing Kim clowns from everywhere in the world. I would see a clown. I know, isn't that terrifying? And I would keep bringing her clowns from all over the world, and she would have all these clowns. And she did you ever like clowns? No, she never liked clowns, but I kept bringing her clowns. And then I shifted, and then I started bringing her lambs. And she didn't ask for lambs. Lambs were not her favorite animal or anything like that. Everywhere in the world, I saw a lamb, I just buy her a lamb. And then I shifted from lambs to bears. And I packed the house with bears. And I just kept bringing her bears from everywhere in the world. And I think I did teapots one time. Yeah, teapots. I love tea. And I thought Kim would love teapots. And so I started bringing her teapots from all over the world. And so if you take generosity and OCD, this is what you do. You just bring a person the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And everywhere in the world, they just kept saying teapots. And one year, it occurred to me that I should probably ask her what she likes. Because you see, eventually, when you love a person enough, you get to know the details of who they are. And when you don't actually love something, you project your details on it. But when you love someone, you actually begin to see the details of them. When you're passionate about something, the details actually matter. And by the way, those are the marriages that stay good. Those are the marriages that stay healthy. Those are the marriages that stay vibrant when you pay attention to the details of the other person, because you love them, and so the details matter. What in your life do you care about enough where the details matter? It's one thing to have a big dream, but if God gives you a dream, I'm telling you, He has given you stewardship of the details. And then by the way, it's interesting because Joseph began with a dream, and it was actually paying attention to dreams that actually set him free. It was the dreams that actually gave him power. It's the dreams that actually elevate him. And he paid attention to the details of those dreams, and he was able to hear the nuances that no one else could hear. See, because Joseph wasn't just a dreamer, he actually then became a detailed person. He was this visionary who became an economist. He was a dreamer who became an administrator. He took care of a nation for 14 years because there was going to be 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. So for 7 years, Joseph was in charge of making sure all the grain was protected. So there's enough for everyone to have, but enough to store so that 7 years when nothing would be there, that no one would starve. Joseph was in charge of the details. The dreamer was in charge of the details. And if you want to step into your greatness, start paying attention to the details of your life. Because the devil isn't in the details. That's where the dream is. And just one last thought. We come to the end of Joseph's life. He finds his place in the most unexpected place. He's the right-hand man of Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the Egyptian empire, and his family lives on the outskirts. And the famine comes, and it's during the famine that his family finally has to come to Egypt because they're going to die if they don't beg for food. And when they come in, they're desperate. Joseph is waiting for them. And what to me is so beautiful is they rejected his dream. But they were desperate for him in their disaster. And here's the beautiful thing, you see, when God gives you a dream, you don't live in bitterness toward everyone who did not believe in your dream. Because you understand that your dream was never for you, it was always for others. And at the end of his life, Joseph actually doesn't let the dream die. Listen to what he says. He says this to his brothers, I'm about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid. And then you must carry my bones up from this place. So Joseph died at 110. And after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. The Egyptians ended Joseph's story in what they thought was the pinnacle of honor. But Joseph, my story's not supposed to end here in Egypt. My story's supposed to end in a land you cannot see. I want you to take my bones because my bones don't live in the past. My bones live in the future. So I want you to take my bones with you when God creates the future you cannot see. I love the phrase, carry my bones up. Because Joseph's bones have always been going up. Carry my bones up from this place. He's speaking life into them. He's saying, even though my story is ending, your story is just beginning. So even though you wanted to end me, I'm actually the beginning. So you didn't want me to have a future, but I'm giving you a future. And you know that dream that you despised inside of me? I'm giving that dream to you now. It's now your dream. And generations pass. In fact, it tells us in the scriptures that Israel found themselves, the Hebrews found themselves in torment because one day there was a Pharaoh who did not remember Joseph because Joseph was remembered Pharaoh after Pharaoh after Pharaoh after Pharaoh because Joseph's story just kept living after he finished walking this earth. Because his bones were still alive, stepping into the future. You know, what does it take to be great? It takes this depth of character that says my dreams are not for me, they're for others. See, those 6 minutes of greatness that LeBron has, no, they're just the 6 minutes he's holding the ball. His greatness is not really defined by when he holds the ball. Really, his greatness is defined by what happens to every other player who would look just average if he wasn't there. See, there's a greatness inside of you, but that greatness was never there for you. It's there for others. See, when you're immature, you think your dreams are supposed to be about yourself. When you're immature, you think your life is supposed to be about yourself. When you're immature, your art is all about self-expression. When you're immature, everything's just about you. But there has to come a point in your life where you realize the dream was never for me. It was entrusted to me. My life isn't just for me. My life is for others. Your greatness is a stewardship. There is greatness inside of you, but it's not so that you could feel great. There's greatness inside of you, but it's not so other people will admire you. There's greatness inside of you, but it's not for your fame or your glory. There's greatness inside of you because humanity needs what's inside of you. And what's inside of you, what is inside of you is God's gift to the world through you. By the way, that's the amazing truth that Jesus teaches us. When Jesus walked this earth, he didn't need to walk this earth for himself. God had nothing to prove. He didn't need to take on flesh and blood to show that he was all that. He did it for you. He did it for me, he did it for us. When Jesus died on the cross, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need that. God didn't need that story. God did not need that glory. Jesus died on the cross for us. When Jesus rose from the dead, God didn't need that. God was already alive. God did that for us. See, the greatness that Jesus came to live out wasn't for himself, it was for us. Jesus is the one. Man, he just stepped into human history just for one moment. People are like, how can God dying 2,000 years ago have an impact on our lives today? What are you talking about? The best athlete in the world only holds the ball for 6 minutes. God holds eternity because of 3 days and 33 years. And when Jesus stepped into human history and he allowed himself to be crucified and he rose from the dead, his greatness unleashes your greatness. And that's the wonder of who Jesus is. That there is greatness inside of you that you will never come to know until you cross that line of faith and trust Jesus with your life. There's something beautiful and wonderful and extraordinary inside of you that God placed there. But it can't be awakened without him. Only his Spirit dwelling in you can awaken the divine, the beautiful, the glorious inside of you. So there's some of you right now, what you need to do this moment is you need to make a decision for 10 years from now. See, there's greatness that's waiting for you right now. There's opportunities waiting for you right now, but you're not ready for them because you didn't make a decision 5 years ago or 10 years ago that prepared you to make the right choice now. Don't you wish you could go back in time and say, oh, I just wish I had decided differently? Don't you wish you could go back 10 years from now, 10 years ago and go, I wish I had made different choices that would have given me a different life right now? Well, right now, you are living in the past. Right now, I want you to live in the past for 10 years from now. I want you to look back from 10 years to this moment and say, I'm so grateful that 10 years ago at Mosaic, on that day, I made a decision and it changed my life forever. Because right now, you're making the choice that will change your future. Right now, make the choice that 20 years from now, you will be grateful you made looking back to this moment. I want you to bow your heads with me and close your eyes. And right now, I want you to decide to cross the line of faith, to trust Jesus with your life. I'm going to lead you in a prayer, just one sentence, where you can choose right now to follow Jesus. Here's the prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. Just whisper to him. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. Just tell him right now. If that's your prayer, if in this moment you just crossed the line of faith and gave your life to Jesus, I want to pray for you right now. If you just prayed that prayer, that simple prayer, Jesus, I give you my life. Right now, I just want you to hold your hand up courageously, without shame, without hesitation right now. Just hold your hand up high and say, yes, I just whispered that prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. Beautiful, all around the room. Anyone else right now? Jesus, I give you my life. Anyone else right now? Let this moment mark your future right now. Jesus, I give you my life. Beautiful, all over the room. Anyone else? Beautiful. Anyone else right now? Just cross the line of faith right now. Beautiful. Wonderful. Anyone else right now? Jesus, I see you. Anyone else? Jesus, I give you my life. Father, I thank you for the women and men in this moment who've crossed the line of faith, they've given their lives to you. And I pray, God, that right now you just wrap them up in your love and let them know they belong to you and that you will never leave them or abandon them. Pray, God, that this moment would mark the beginning of new things, the beginning of a new future. I pray, God, as they step into your greatness, that you would unlock their greatness. They begin to live the life they were created to live. I thank you, Father, that Jesus came for them, that he loves them, and now they belong to him. We thank you, we pray in Jesus' name. I just want you to keep your heads bowed just for a moment longer. You put your hands down. I didn't do this in the last gathering, but I just feel compelled to do this. There's some of you, today, God's just speaking to you about what it takes to be great. There's some changes that need to happen in your life. You need to take responsibility and ownership for your life. You've settled for too little. You've been satisfied with too small a life. But today you want to make a change. You want to take ownership for your future. You want to do what it takes to be great. If that's you, I just want to pray for you. But I want you to do something a little harder. I just want you to stand if that's you and say, man, that's me. I want to do what it takes to be great. I know there needs to be some changes in my life. I'm just ready to take that on. I'm ready to pay the price. Beautiful all over the room. Father, just look at this room. Look at us. We need you. We know you created us for something that matters, something bigger than ourselves. But God, so often we feel so inadequate and we feel so unprepared and ill-equipped and we're just not ready. So many times, God, you gave us the opportunity, but we were just not ready for it. But God, we want to be ready for every moment, ready for every opportunity. We want to stop blaming you for not giving us the opportunity. We want to bring the determination. We want to bring the sacrifice. We want to bring the discipline. We want to bring the passion. God, we want to bring our whole selves to you. Trust you, God, that you've placed great things in us. And I pray, Jesus, that you just begin to astonish each person with the wonder of how you've created them. They would take stewardship and ownership of their gifts and talents, of their intelligence, of their passion, and begin to live a life fully for you and for others. No more excuses, no more whining, no more complaining. God, give us the great challenges. We're ready for them. Fail or succeed, we will not back down. We are here. We are yours. We are ready. We thank you, Jesus, and we pray in your name. Amen. Can we just thank God together? Amen. Let's worship together. Come on, everybody stand together. I am so excited. I am so excited about the weeks to come. I want to encourage you to lean in, to dive in. At the very least, realize that change doesn't happen in an instant. It happens because you choose a new path, you choose a new course. I want to ask you to commit. Be here next week. Invite your friends. Let's get involved in crews and book clubs. Let's dive into chasing daylight. Let's step into our future. Let's not settle for less. Let's do what it takes to be great. Love you guys.
You won't betray me. You never fail me. And I won't be afraid. You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You'll never fail me. And I won't be afraid because you will protect me. You will defend me. You're standing with me. And I won't be afraid. You will protect me. You will defend me. You're standing with me.
there's sometimes when a word goes beyond a moment. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes when God just shows up. And I feel like today we got the gift. Today was a gift that God showed up. And I feel like we need to give honor where honor is due. And we have a gift that Pastor Erwin is a gift to us. And hold on real quick, just because I want us to like thank God for the leader that we have, who fights for the hearts of women and men to find life. So can we thank God for our leader, for our pastor, Pastor Erwin? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Man, there was hands all across this room. So many people that stepped into life. And we want you to know how much that God loves you, how much that we love you. And so if that was you today and you just made that huge leap of faith and you said yes to Jesus, we have a gift for you. It's a Bible. And on the back of this Bible, it just has a sticker that says you belong here. Because what I love about God is that one of the gifts that he gives us when we say yes to him is we get the tribe of Jesus. That we get people fighting for each other. And we want to fight with you. We want to journey with you. And so if that was you and you said yes, out the back, you'll see our team holding this up. And it's going to look awkward that they're holding up a Bible. Just beat their awkwardness and your awkwardness. And then you can meet together and give each other a hug and be like, just Jesus, right? But you can grab that on your way. I just want to encourage you to get this book, because this book is filled with people like you and me that are just trying to figure out how to be the best version of themselves and doing it together. So you want to get this in your hands. And then in a couple weeks, Pastor Erwin's starting a brand new series called Chasing Daylight. And it's going to just be a phenomenal time where we just get to have a conversation together about how we can continue being the great version of ourselves where we discover who we are created to be. So I want to encourage you to host a book club, invite your friends to be a part of it, join a crew. Like, these are just spaces that we want you to connect to each other and get your friends in community. And so make sure before you go, there's books that we're selling out in the back. And then we love you. We love you so much. If you don't hear anything else, we love you, God loves you, and find your people. Because when you find your people, it'll change your life. So we'll see you on Wednesday. We'll see you next Sunday. God bless.